right. Wow, mic's on. Okay, thank you all for coming. I want to thank all the participants for being here and being a part of this process, whether you're a candidate for Highway District 4 or a representative of the ambulance district or a Valley View School District. Your presence is appreciated, and I'm a firm believer that it's of great importance to be here to introduce yourselves and your cause to Caldwell. People are going to be asked to vote, and they need to get to know the candidates, they need to get to know the issues, and this is a really important part of the process, so we thank everybody for being involved. My name is Travis. I'm the director of the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce, and on behalf of the Caldwell Chamber, we appreciate everybody coming to these events, whether they are joining us in the crowd or we are now live streaming this event. So this will be recorded and then put out, and so keep that in mind when you're making your comments and answering questions. I want to also note that we partner with the League of Women Voters for this event, and I appreciate this partnership. We've done this for several forums so far, and I think we found a pretty darn good formula, and so we're going to give Jean a chance to come up and speak in just a moment. But the format for tonight is going to be, we'll give Valley View School District first chance to present about the levy that is going to be on your ballots in May, and then we'll have a very short break, and then we'll have the Caldwell Ambulance District present. There will be Q&A from the audience after both of those presentations, so please think about what you want to ask about each of the levies, and if that helps you formulate your opinion on how you're going to vote. That's the whole goal of tonight. After both of the districts get to present on the levies, we'll have another very short break so people can use the restroom, get a drink, whatever, and then we'll have our candidates for Highway District 4 come up, and we'll have a series of introductions and questions. You can submit questions from the audience. There will be note cards and pens available in the audience, and we would highly encourage you to submit your question. The rules on the questions are, they cannot be slanted for or against any one particular candidate, because every question we ask will be asked of both candidates. Both candidates will get equal and fair time to answer the same question, and we will rotate who gets the first answer to each question so that it's as fair and neutral as we can possibly make this event. So I may have a few more announcements as we go, but for now I'd love to turn the microphone over to Jean Henscheid from the League of Women Voters, and she'd like to say a few words.
I'm the rule person. I'm going to describe to you what the rules of the game are. But first, I have a paid public announcement about what we do at the League of Women Voters. It's not paid. It was started in 1920 after women won the right to vote. However, for many years now, our organization has been open to both men and women. We're strong supporters of the election process and encourage citizens to exercise their constitutional right to vote. We want you to encourage your friends and family to vote in this May 20th election, and oftentimes it's called an off-year election, but we're not calling it that anymore because these particular positions, highway district, school bonds and levies, library boards, these are critical citizen servant kinds of positions. So if you have not yet filled out your absentee ballot application, Friday is the deadline to do that. If you want to vote absentee, we have the forms to do that. So make sure you stop by and pick one of those up. We'd like to thank the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce and Lindy and Kathy and Sarah and Travis, of course, for making this event possible. We'd also like to thank the candidates who are willing to come here this evening. There are 4 candidates for the Highway District position, and 2 of them declined to participate. So these are what we call empty chairs. And so if you're live streaming and you're looking for the other 2 candidates, they've declined to be there, but we're so grateful for the ones who are here and are willing to talk to the voters about what they believe in and what they hope to accomplish in these positions. We do have an online voter's guide. It's called vote411.org. There's information out there. We ask every candidate to give us information about themselves, and we put it online. It's the state's only online voter guide. So vote411.org is available. These are the rules. We ask for the adherence to the terms of civil discourse by all candidates and the public. The hallmark of democracy is willingness of all members of our community to treat people with courtesy and respect, not just the people we agree with. It's in the spirit that we are here this evening to engage in a vital part of our democratic process. So with that, Travis will run through the times that everyone has, and I do believe that we're beginning with the school levy.
So before we get too far, I also want to point out we have some volunteers tonight with us, and they've volunteered with us a few times. They help us set up. They just help greet people and just do whatever it is we need them to do, and that is the Mormon Women for Ethical Government. So we thank you for being here and for helping us out tonight with the logistics. So we're going to jump right into it. So let's have and give the floor over to Joey Palmer with Valley View School District. And I think a round of applause would be. And Joey, yes, you can use whichever mic you choose. Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, Joey with the Valley View School District. Basically what we're running is, well, first of all, thank you to Travis and the Chamber and also Gene for hosting these events. It's always great to not have to host one ourselves and be able to piggyback on an effort. So that means a lot, thank you. So we're asking to renew a supplemental levy. It's been on the books for 40 years in the Valley View School District history. You know, when it first started out, I think it was like less than $100,000. 40 years later, now we're at $7 million per year. And of course it lasts for 2 years. And basically what it pays for is, I'll just run off the list, transportation. So $1 million of that goes to our busing costs. District-wide enhancement programs such as like AVID, which is advancement via individual determination, which is basically it's an education program for students who come from families who have never gone to college, to show them the ropes on how to get the skills to be successful in college, how to go to college. We pay for field trips to take kids to college campuses so that way they can actually meet admissions counselors, meet the president sometimes, and other students that are in college so they can have a real vision for themselves and go on to college and a career after that. Then also classroom curriculum. We don't get funding from the state for a whole lot of classroom curriculum, and it's not like the books anymore of the days of old when I was in high school and you were all in school as well. It's more like licenses for software to have access to curriculum. It's totally different, but it's the same game, just a different format. Also, $3,500,000 of that $7 million goes to salaries and benefits for teachers. Without that, we'd have overcrowded classrooms. We're already overcrowded at our schools. Thank God we have 2 more schools coming online this fall. But we also need teachers to put in the classrooms so that way the classrooms that we do have aren't just overcrowded. So it pays for those teachers, also pays for classified staff. That runs everything from safe school aides to just that additional educational assistant that takes kids out in the hallway and gives them individual attention so that way they can get their needs met. Also, it pays for our student resource officers, basically police officers on campus, and also our nurses. These are all staff members that the State Department of Education does not, or I should say, these are all positions that state legislators don't fund, so it's up to local property voters, taxpayers and voters to say, yes, you can have this additional staff since they're not funded by the state. Let's see here, and also, as we all know, technology comes in with built-in obsolescence. It's not like we buy a computer and it's good forever. They do that by design. It's a great business model, which means we have to buy new technology infrastructure to keep our computers ready to rock and roll for our teachers and our students. So that's what pays that's what that $7 million goes to per year. I don't know how everyone feels about growth. I definitely have my own opinions, but who cares about my opinions? But the good thing about growth is, I will say, is that if the supplemental levy is renewed, it'll go down by about $11 per $100,000 of assessed property value. So that's only because more people are moving into our area to share the load on growth and the taxes. So it's not like your tax levy will go up. That's a rumor. If you see the little Facebook warriors go on the comment section and say, vote no for the levy, because if it passes, our taxes are going to go crazy and increase. That's never happened. If you look at the past 20 years of the Valley View tax levy rates, it's significantly decreased year after year after year because of the growth. That's the name of the game. That's how those levers work out. So don't fall for that trick if people say, Valley View is going to tax us and we're not going to be able to buy cat food for our cats. It's not true. Your cats are going to be fine. And so that's the supplemental levy. And I'm happy to take questions if anybody has any, but hopefully they don't and they just say, Joey, sign me up to vote yes now.
So at this point, we would love for people to submit questions from the audience. I already have one from the audience, and then we had a few to kind of start things off. So Joey, the question that was just submitted from the audience is, would you say the patrons of your district support your schools, and if so, how?
Oh, absolutely. We are definitely, does anybody know who Rick Hogaboam is? I had lunch with him today. He's a Canyon County City Clerk. He's a great gentleman. And he basically said, I've never heard it put this way, but Valley View has a great brand. People deliberately move into the Valley View community because they want to be in the Valley View School District. I get it all the time. Unfortunately, I'm in this difficult position where I'm having to say to everyone in the Caldwell School District and Nampa School District, they want to attend the Valley View School District schools, even though they don't live in our district boundaries. And I have to say, no, you got to pay taxes and you got to live here, you know, if you want to benefit from the Valley View School District services. So people move into the Valley View School District because they like the way we do business and education. And people also who do not live in the Valley View School District, they want their kids to come here even though they're not taxpayers in the Valley View School District. So I think that says it all right there. I think that another thing too is the fact that when we ran the bond for the 2 elementary schools that are being built currently, it passed with close to 72% approval rating. Usually when you look in a conservative neck of the woods, they usually say no to bonds. They're not interested in taxing themselves and increasing their taxes every year. But they trust Valley View, and it was an overwhelming majority. And so we don't take it for granted, and we're going to keep hustling for everybody who supports us, supporting their kids.
Joey, another question is, what's the success rate with Valley View School District's levies in the past? And if you have not been successful in the past, what would make this effort this time different than before?
The success rate has been, I can't even remember the last time. So I've been with the Valley View School District for 16, 17 years now, and it's passed every 2 years that I've had my career in Valley View, and it's been even more since then. And what was the second part of that question?
What makes this effort different is if you've had that kind of success rate, I would say that kind of goes to the first question.
Oh, I see.
But I guess maybe I'll change that up and say, what are the plans for if in the event that this levy fails?
Yeah, first I'll say that we don't want to take the success rate for granted because our neighboring districts, Nampa and Caldwell, had success rates, and at one point in the last 5 years, both of their supplemental levies failed, and they had to scramble and they had to shut some programs down and lay off staff. So we never want to take that for granted. We always want to make sure the need is heard. I'm not allowed to say need. State legislators say that means I'm a bad person. So let's change need to we want to make sure people are aware of what these dollars would go to. Whew. That was close. Representative so-and-so almost got mad. All right. And then the other question was? What would happen if it didn't pass? So basically, that would mean we'd have to let go of all of our student resource officers. We would have to let go of a lot of classified staff who give a lot of small group and one-on-one attention to students who need it the most. It also means that we'd have to let go of a significant amount of teachers, and those teachers that go to other districts, that just means bigger classrooms in Valley View schools, and those teachers who don't get laid off, they basically think, wow, am I really valued then by the community if they're willing to vote no on a supplemental levy that supports me? And now I was already working hard enough as it is with the support of a supplemental levy. Now I'm having to work harder with less support with the community. I think I'm going to say goodbye to Valley View and go to a school district that will support me and passes a supplemental levy. That's the reality of how that would shake out. It also means our curriculum wouldn't be as up to date. It also means we'd have to figure out what to do with transportation. Maybe we can, shoot, what would you do without $1 million to take care of our busing fees? You know, you can only imagine. Maybe we can get a horse and buggy and save some dollars that way instead of a bus. So, yeah, I know I'm being facetious at this point. If I could be even more facetious, maybe we could have kids squatting in the dirt in the back of our schools doing math with sticks, something like that, and that would make some people happy that the supplemental levy didn't pass. So yeah, there's all sorts of creative things we could do that would not be that great for kids.
Any other questions from the audience that anybody would like to submit at this time?
Great, well, thanks for hearing the information and the lame jokes. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Well, thank you, Joey from Valley View School District. Joey, the price of going first is at the moment that I introduced you, I realized we didn't come up with a great plan for where you would stand or present from, because we don't often have this presentation style. So at the risk of being unfair, you're a good sport. Chief Stoll, or actually we're going to take a very short 5-minute break, and then I'll give Chief Stoll an option for where we're going to set him up and make sure that everybody's comfortable and we've got good camera coverage. Thanks. All right, we're back. Thanks, Joey, for being good about our our setup situation. At this time, we're going to go ahead and jump right in, and we're going to let Chief Stoll from Caldwell or Canyon County Ambulance District present about the levy that they have on the ballot. So, if you would, please join me in welcoming Chief Stoll.
Thank you, Travis, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here tonight. You may have seen me for the last year because we first started this last May. I'm Michael Stoll. I'm the chief for Canyon County Ambulance District, also known as Canyon County Paramedics. A lot of people don't realize we're an actual taxing district separate from the county, so that's why our official name is Canyon County Ambulance District, but we typically just go by Canyon County Paramedics. I've worked with the ambulance district for the last 20 years, and I've been the chief since 2018. So as I said, we started off a year ago for last May for the ballot, and we decided to go on the ballot for $7.9 million, and we went for a permanent override, unlike the school district, which is fitting to follow Joy, and I'll tell you why here in a second, but $7.9 million for a permanent override. We asked to rebuild our station in South Nampa. So if you're familiar with the old Mercy Hospital that got torn down, we have a station down there that we don't own. And so private developers are going to tear that down, and since we don't own it, we've got to rebuild the station. So we were going to do that, was one of them. Second one is we have not built a station here in Caldwell in 21 years. So I got hired in '04, and we have not built an ambulance station here in Caldwell or added a unit here in Caldwell for that many years. So that was the second thing. We wanted to add an ambulance and the staff for that station. So those were the big ticket items we had. Permanent override is pretty tough. We got about 42%, and you need about 67% to pass. So we decided to come back in November. We lowered the amount, still asked for a permanent override, got up to about 48%, but still that supermajority is really, really hard to do. So for this ballot here in May, we're going to do what the school districts do, and that's the supplemental or temporary override. We're asking for $7.9 million, but we're just asking for the 2-year, the supplemental, which means if it does pass, we would be back in 2 years, but we really need to pass. And so that's why we're dropping the permanent override. The most common complaint, if you want to call it, that we get as the ambulance district about the levies was the permanent. One, people don't want their property taxes to go up anyway, but they really dislike we're going to give you the keys to the kingdom permanently, and they don't like that. And I get it. I pay property taxes too. I don't want it to go up permanently. However, we have the need, so we just decided to drop back for a temporary override. So that's what we're asking for. A little bit about the ambulance district. We run about 20,000 calls per year. We have about 85 employees. We have 5 stations in Nampa, 2 here in Caldwell, 1 in Middleton, and then a chase truck in Wilder. So the difference about the ambulance district too, as compared to say the fire departments, is Canyon County Ambulance District covers the entire county. So we go from Melba clear to Parma, and what that also does is, even though we're asking for $7.9 million, our levy, the increase of $18 per 100,000, may be smaller than what you might see at a fire district because we're spread out over the whole county. So that does benefit us to keep that lower. It still is going to go up by that much per 100,000. So the other thing to know about the ambulance district is the difference between us and say the fire districts or the fire departments and the police departments, sheriff, is we're only funded about 30% by property taxes. Whereas if the fire department comes out, you're not going to get a bill because they're about 98% funded by property taxes. We're about 30%. That other 65 to 70% for the ambulance district comes for user fees. So when you get transported in an ambulance, that's why you get a bill. But with that comes a lot of constraints, the Medicare, Medicaid caps. So, we might get paid for half of what an ambulance trip actually costs. So when you have that cap and a property tax cap, we're just really stuck with no ability to grow, no ability to meet the growth here. And in fact, we're shutting down ambulances because we don't have the staff. We don't have the funding to keep up with staffing or to build stations. So that's why we're on the ballot. In our minds, it's pretty simple, but I know it's kind of confusing. A lot of people don't think they'll ever need an ambulance, but when you do, you need us there, and we need to be there in a timely manner. And instead of response times getting quicker, we're actually getting longer just because we don't have the units on the street. I think that's probably all I have, and unless you got questions.
So I'll start things off with a couple of questions, and again, I'll encourage the audience to submit questions that they have. You mentioned that the last time you built a station was 21 years ago, roughly.
Correct.
So that was around 2002, I think, 2003. Yep. I looked it up while you were speaking, the population of Caldwell was somewhere around 27,000 people at that time. How have you managed to not build another station and grow, and still service this community when we've grown from 27,000 people to now, I think the estimates are 78,000 in 20 years?
Yeah,
How have you managed to do that?
And that's a great question, and what you see like in our response times is we haven't kept up. We've added units in Nampa just because there's so much more growth in the population there, and about 20% of the calls that happen here in Caldwell are run by an ambulance coming out of Middleton or one of the Nampa units. So we haven't kept up here in Caldwell. In 2003, we did build a station in Caldwell and a station in Nampa, and those were the last two we built. We've tried to be really careful with the monies that we do have. We've partnered with the fire departments. We've got an ambulance in Middleton Fire. We've got one in Nampa Fire. We will try to co-house in Caldwell here, but the quarters are pretty tight. We have a rig out in Wilder, so we've really tried to take the monies that we have and be as good as we can, good stewards with that, but at some point you've got to build a station. Like, we are just behind right now, so, yep.
All right, another question, similar to what we asked the school district. What are your plans if it doesn't go through this time?
So when we did not pass in May, last May, we looked for, our fiscal year starts on October 1. So starting in October 1 for the fiscal year that we're currently in, we left 4 positions open. And by doing that, it reduced the amount of funding that we would need to balance our budget. So moving forward, if this fails again, we're going to have to look at our current and next budget year to decide. Right now, I think we have 10 to 12 open positions. We just can't keep people. We keep losing them to the fire departments or other areas. And so what we would probably end up doing is just not fill more positions and look at, how can we reduce the number of transfers that we take from the hospitals to other hospitals and focus on 911. But it would definitely mean probably funding fewer positions. And that doesn't mean laying anyone off. We're just not going to fill those positions. So, which means longer response times. It just does. And when we don't get there on scene in time, it ties up your fire departments too, because we respond together. And if the fire department gets there and we're coming from Nampa to Caldwell, it ties them up. They don't transport to the hospital. So that fire engine is going to be tied up with that crew, with the patient waiting on us to get there. So we affect everybody else that we respond with.
So that's a perfect segue, because you mentioned response times, and this next question has to do with that, and that is, and I'm sort of paraphrasing the question a little bit, but how quickly, when you're short-staffed or you're shutting stations down, how quickly does that increase the response time, and what happens when the response time is lengthened? How quickly does that translate into health effects, and how quickly does that change the table for patients?
So and like I said, we only have two units here in Caldwell. So if you think about, if both those units are out, we all know how far away Middleton is and the amount of traffic we have. If that truck is coming from Middleton, our next truck in Nampa is over there off Midland and the Boulevard. And think of the amount of traffic coming down that boulevard or coming down from Middleton. That's a significant increase in response times. And we all know in heart attack, stroke, major trauma, seconds, minutes truly do count. And the hospitals count on us getting you there for them to do the care that you need to get out of the hospital as healthy as you can be. So it just is, it's a snowball. When the transport unit doesn't get there in time, it affects health outcomes. It just does.
So again, there's a lot of questions about response time, because I think that's what this boils down to. What's the target? What's the goal for a good response time? And then contrast that with what are we seeing in Caldwell right now before we lose that other station?
Sure. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. I know that for an ALS unit, which is, for us, it's a paramedic, I think the standard, they would like to have an ALS unit on scene within 9 minutes. We were at 8 minutes. We're now growing. And just because the national standard is a number doesn't mean we shouldn't try to beat it here. So over the last 5 years, we've lost, I think, 1.5 minutes on response time. So, and that's just going to continue just to grow with it. When I, try to go from here to Nampa, the construction is just crazy. And that, just because we have lights and sirens, you get on the freeway, you get another place, you might as well turn them off. People just can't see you. There's nowhere for them to get out of your way. So response times are just going up and up at this point.
One last question, since we have some time, and when you hosted our Leadership Caldwell group, you talked to us about you'd lost a lot of staffing, and it sounded like it was due to, more competitive pay at other places. Can you talk about how much staffing you've lost recently due to inability to pay competitive wages in relation to, what's the total percentage of staff that you've lost?
Yes, so we do, for Canyon County paramedics, we pay about, if you compare hourly, which you kind of have to do because there are certain departments that work more hours within a paycheck, but if you compare hourly, we're about $12,000 to $14,000 less than Ada County paramedics. We're up to $20,000 difference after a year, like say at Nampa Fire for a medic. And so we all know in this kind of economy, you cannot be that far behind another department. So we started this fiscal year down 4 positions. Nampa Fire opened up, we lost 4 almost immediately there. When Meridian Fire, Boise Fire, Ada County paramedics, when they open up, we just cringe because we know we're going to lose people, and it's very difficult to recruit. Not only that because we pay less, but we've been very transparent of where we're at. We have a capital improvement plan, and we're not going to be able to accomplish any of that. And so when prospective candidates are looking out there, we're all over the internet right now. You can see you're not paying as much. You haven't built a station in 21 years. When they look to the future of the ambulance district, that's pretty hard for a young person in their 20s to think about, where am I going to go for my career? Because once you get in there and you start doing Percy, you want to build your career where you can stay there. And so instead of starting here, hopping around. So it's very difficult right now to compete across the valley. It just is. We lose people every time there's an opening somewhere else. And we don't fault them. You can't blame them. It's tough right now for a family with inflation and everything that's going on here in the valley.
Chief, I actually came up with one more question that I think is pertinent. You started by talking about how the ambulance district is funded differently than police and fire, and I think that's important for people to know, because I think a lot of folks just assume that you're part of the fire department half the time, and that if they do realize there's a distinction, they think you're funded the same way. You talked a little bit about how that's different. There's some discussion in the legislature recently about changing the way your funding is and making the ambulance district, moving it over into an essential service. How can you explain a little bit about what's being proposed and how that would affect things, and if you see that as a good thing or not? Sure. I'm not doing a good job of.
No, that's fine, Travis. I know what you're talking about. So Travis is correct. Like I said, one of the hindrances we have is about 70% of our fee-for-service revenue comes from Medicare, Medicaid, and that has a cap on it. If we have a $1,000 bill, Medicare, Medicaid, CMS comes in and say you're going to collect $500 of that. We write that other $500 off, and that doesn't mean sending somebody to collections. It means it's a mandatory write-off. In Idaho, we were housed at the Department of Health and Welfare, which is where Medicaid is, and we all know in Idaho, Medicaid is a very unpopular topic with the legislature. So this year, they passed a bill. They moved EMS, Emergency Medical Services, out of the Department of Health and Welfare and moved us into the military division. So step one is that, to get us, and I don't have a problem with Medicaid. It's not that we hate Medicaid, but from a legislative standpoint, if we want some funding and we're tied in with that branch, it's going to be very difficult for the legislature to try to send monies to where maybe it could go to Medicaid. So we're now in the military division. It did not come with any funding this year. Don't know if it'll come with any funding next year from the state, but it's step one, and we just had lunch with a representative the other day to talk about what step 2, because before we know it, the next session is going to be in, and what are we going to do about that? So for now, there isn't any funding. Essential service is very difficult. We tried that last year. It didn't pass. And part of the problem with it is once you designate us as an essential service in Idaho, that means it has to be provided. So these areas, really rural areas, if you mandate that it has to be provided, how are some of those areas going to do it? So they've got to figure out, once they mandate it, how are we going to make sure that it can be funded? So it needs to happen. EMS is not an essential service. It seems crazy to me that we're not, but we're not. But it is something at least being talked about in the legislature, but we can't hang our hat, our budget on anything coming from the legislature. We just can't, because it's just not, it's not going to happen soon enough. So, but that is a great point.
Last chance for any final questions from the audience? All right, let's give Chief Stoll a hand and thank him for the presentation. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll get our candidates for Highway District 4 situated, and we'll be right back. get things rolling again. Okay, we're back. We are going to move into the portion of the evening where you all will get to hear from the candidates for Canyon County Highway District 4. There are actually 4 candidates for 2 positions. There's Subdistrict 1 and Subdistrict 2 that are available. Unfortunately, 2 of the candidates for election elected not to be here tonight, so their presence is missed, but I want to thank the 2 candidates that are here tonight, and I think it's an important part of the process to let the public meet and get to know who they're going to be asked to vote for. So I really appreciate both of you participating tonight, and we look forward to learning more about you. So with that in mind, let's start. We're going to give each candidate 2 minutes for every question across the board tonight, where you have a series of questions. But the first one is kind of a softball. We would love for you to introduce yourselves to us, and you'll have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves to everybody here and following along online. And Mr. Hindman won the highly scientific game of rock, paper, scissors, and he has chosen to go first. So, Mr. Hindman, the floor is yours, and you've got 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
2 minutes to introduce myself. My biggest problem is I tell way too many stories, so I have 20 minutes total, right? So, no, 2 minutes. Stuart Hindman is my name. I'm running for Highway Commissioner in Subdistrict 4, Highway District 4, Subdistrict 2, Highway District 4. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Chamber here for letting us speak today. He says, stumbling over my words. I have lived in Canyon County since 1981. I moved here from Chalice, which is kind of on the edge of the earth, right? I moved here because my wife was pregnant and we were about to have children, and she said we needed to be someplace where there are doctors. And that's a pretty amazing thing. We moved to the house we live in 1992. It's the same house we live in today, and it's on 11th Avenue North Extension, just off Eustick. I've been involved in a lot of things in my life. I was a cowboy to begin with, and then I worked for the state as an inspector, and then I was an investigator, and then I was the international trade specialist for the state of Idaho, and I opened the offices in Taiwan and in Japan and in Mexico. So I've been around a lot of places in the world. When I left the state, I started a company that did international sales of potatoes. I'm from Idaho, international sales of potatoes. That's what we did. And I opened up a couple of other companies. I owned a restaurant. I owned a grocery store. I started a company that was the only customs clearing warehouse in the state of Idaho. And for the last 20 years, I have been an insurance agent in this area. I live off of Eustick Road. Eustick Road has been closed for all but 7 months of the last 7 years between my house and my son's, 8 miles. That's why I'm running for this office. It irritates me that I can't get anywhere in this valley without some problem of construction, and the Highway District is involved with lots of that. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Bollinger, same question. 2 minutes to introduce yourself to us, please.
Okay, thank you for having me. Thank you guys all as well for doing this for us. I think this is great to get out in front of all the candidates. In front of all the voters, I'm sorry. My name is Justin Bollinger. I was born and raised right here in Boise, Idaho. I've lived here my entire life. I went to Bora High School where I met my lovely wife, Brianna, and we have been together ever since that day. We have 2 awesome children, an 18-year-old daughter who is just excels at everything she does, top of the line. My son, he's 15, and he races motocross, and you know, they're our 2 little pride and joys. And I started doing excavation in 2003 when I graduated. I started building roads. I was a laborer on a shovel. I worked for a couple companies around this valley. I labored until I got my chance to get into a piece of equipment, and then I got into a piece of equipment and started building roads ever since then. 4 years ago, my wife and I, we started our own excavation company, and so we are completely wrapped up in the road building process every day. Our current projects that we do are only in all roads. Like, that's That's what Boley excavation is. We do wet utilities, we do grading, base and pave, we install sidewalks, we do the roads you guys drive on every day. That is exactly why I decided to get involved with this. It's right in the center of what I do. I have a ton of knowledge about how the road systems work. I know every crossover agency. I have direct contacts with them, so I'll be good at intercommunication between them. Yeah, this is a place that, me doing this deal, I also get to see the budgets for equipment and stuff when I buy equipment, so I understand the pricing and all the companies, and that's a big thing for Commissioner, because you are the guy overseeing basically the purchases of stuff and helping stuff move. And I wanted to get involved with it because it is right in the center of my wheelhouse, and I care passionately about this, and thank you.
Thank you very much. So as I mentioned earlier, when we kicked off the event tonight, we have a group of volunteers that's helped us out with some of the logistics a number of times, in addition to the League of Women Voters. So we've got some folks from from MWAG, which is the Mormon Women for Ethical Government, and to say thank you for all your help and support on these events. We offered them the chance to ask the first question. So I'm going to give the floor to Deanna Thomas, and she's going to ask the first question. And Justin, you'll get the first to answer this time.
Thank you. Thank you. Transportation and infrastructure needs in Sub-District 4, and how do you plan to address these needs?
Okay, for me, our district is the fastest growing one right now in all the Treasure Valley. There's the most farm area. Ada County's pretty much taken over. It's already almost done. Everything's moving right here to Canyon County. And if we don't get in front of this and have a great plan, an outline, and a plan that we stick to and manage well, then, like my opponent said, you see what happens. 7 months, only a road's been open 7 months in the last 4 or 7 years, or whatever the time frame was. So basically, we have to be able to make a plan, get people in there that can manage it properly, and execute that plan sufficiently, so that way it's not so much headache and burden on everybody out there trying to move from A to B. And also sharing knowledge with people and getting more information out there is a huge way that I feel like I could help, and that I would like to do, because knowledge is power, and the more knowledge that everybody has, the better that they know what's going on, and they can make their life a lot easier by, going around or whatnot, and that's where I'm at with it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Heineman, same question.
Like
Would
you're
you,
supposed to
and would you like to hear the question again?
And I'm going to be seated while
Yeah.
you answer. Thank
Okay,
I think I got the question.
all right.
Says, and my time has probably started.
Yeah, I'm gonna start it again. Okay, okay.
Deanna, pressing issues and addressing the solutions for those. The pressing issues are things like Middleton Road and that roundabout that was supposed to be put in there, where a number of different organizations, not just Highway District 4, but Caldwell and a number of other interested parties stalled out the completion of that project. So one of the biggest things that's happening out here, the bypass in Middleton, which is on the planning stage, but we're not even close to getting that done. And the fights are not over because Middleton City is not exactly happy with what's going to happen in Middleton. Those are things that come to the Highway District and need to be solved. A lot of that is with negotiation and with understanding between all of those different agencies that impact what the Highway District does. And what this organization needs to do, that what the directors of the Highway District need to do, is to reach out and start forming those liaisons and forcing the issue that we need to be coordinated in our efforts, so that citizens like myself are not inappropriately put out by the fact that, oh, we're building over the same piece of road 4 different times in the same year. More coordination.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, let's see, if my hash marks are correct, we're going to go straight back to you, Stuart, for the next question. And that is, this is a question from the audience. You hear a lot about the issue of elected officials using their platforms for personal issues or personal gain. How can you assure the voters that you will put best practices above personal interests?
Interesting question. Best practices against personal gain. It says, I have not quite retired, but I have enough that I can retire. I have a couple of businesses out there, their insurance, they have nothing to do with road construction. My reason for being involved with this is because I can't get from my house to my son's house, which is 8 miles away on Ustick Road, because of construction stuff that's going on. But it also took me 45 minutes from Franklin Boulevard to get here this evening. It says 2 different construction things, 2 gloriettas, 2 roundabouts that were being rebuilt. They were open for a little while, and now they're not open again. I'm sitting there saying, I want to be involved with that process that makes projects move forward. For personal gain, you know what? There's a little bit of a paycheck involved with being in this position. A little bit of a paycheck for a couple of times a month. And that's a wonderful thing, but it isn't going to make anybody wealthy. And I'm not in the development business. I'm not building houses. I'm not building commercial buildings or anything else. So that stipend that's out there probably pays for the paperwork I need to do.
Justin, same question. Would you like to hear it again?
Yes, please.
So you hear a lot about the issues of elected officials using their platforms for personal gain. How can you assure the voters that you will put best practices above your personal interests?
Yeah, that is a very interesting question. For me, it all comes back to my character and who I've grown up to be. I actually have 5 businesses that I run, all run super efficiently with people that are very confident and take pride in what they do. My personal gain is seeing others actually be confident in the decisions they're making, and I can instill that. I instill that into people, and I get people to believe in themselves, make the decisions that they want, and I stand behind people when they make their decisions, and I don't stand over them. And so for me, the personal gain would be seeing others do very good at their job, be able to go home at night and be like, we kicked some butt today. And that's my personal gain there. For me, for the best practices, man, that's all that matters. That's why we're doing this, is for the best practices. That's why I'm up here, is because I'm not seeing the best practices in play right now. And I'm so involved in the world of road building and utility installation that I can put the best practices right in the front of the line, because that's what I do every single day of my life, and that's how I built my companies. And I've grown these companies in a rapid time frame based upon only doing best practices and not personal gain. I'm a grateful human being, and I'm not a greedy human being, and so that is how I decipher both of them right there. That would be how I would distinguish them.
All right, very good. Well, you both gave us a perfect segue into the next question. And Justin, we're going to go right back to you. You'll get the first chance to answer this one. And I'm kind of combining one from the audience and one that we prepared ahead of time. Recently, 2 separate roundabout projects in Caldwell had to be postponed mid-process until 2026 due to an inability to secure the proper permits in time to proceed with the project. Can you tell us, do you know what happened in these cases? And if elected, how would you prevent this from happening again in the future? And kind of the crux of that question is also, what do you think is, or what is the root cause of construction problems on Canyon County roads? So there's sort of a multitude of questions in one. Did I muddy up the waters too much?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily. I don't necessarily know exactly what projects you're talking about. Can I ask, were they postponed prior to construction, I hope, and not during construction.
In the midst of construction.
It seems to me like somebody definitely dropped the ball on securing that. Those are the steps that have to be taken in order to do stuff properly. And if you have people that aren't in or don't know the process or the steps, that kind of stuff is so easily to get lost and pushed back, and then, oh, we'll deal with it tomorrow, and now I forgot. If you don't know the process, for me, that's hard to believe that they would get that far into it and then be like, uh-oh, we messed up. There has to be somebody, that should go up to the leadership, and the leader should say, hey, I messed up. I should have known my job better. I should have done a lot better job with this. I will do better next time. This will never happen again. And the fact that it happened a second time actually kind of angers me a little bit, because that means people just got careless and get comfortable in their position. They don't take it serious, which is what we need to clean up. I wasn't aware of that. Seems silly. I'll go straight after some stuff like that my first day in there. Yeah.
Stuart, would you like to hear that menagerie of questions again? Okay, so recently 2 separate roundabout projects in Caldwell had to be postponed mid-process until 2026 due to an inability to secure the proper permits in time to proceed with the project. Can you tell us, do you know what happened in these cases? And if elected, how would you prevent this from happening again in the future? And what do you think is the root cause of construction problems on Canyon County roads?
So you mentioned 2, I only know of 1, and that's the one just off of Middleton Road. Again, that is a problem of the engineering people that are within the highway district who are planning this. I will go back to something that happened on 11th Avenue North Extension. This was a city problem, not a highway district problem. They were rebuilding the road from Garrity out to the water tower in Nampa, and that's the road I always took home. It took them 11 and a half months to do that piece of road, and the problem was because the city engineer failed to understand that the railroad has a right-of-way across there. And the railroad says, well, you can't build this because of our right-of-way, or you can pay us $500,000. So those right-of-ways, and that's the same problem with Linden and Middleton, the same problem out there. He says the engineers didn't understand where the rights-of-way were and who controlled those rights-of-way, and they didn't get the easements and the permits to make it happen. That's unforgivable. That's why you hire engineers. It's one of those complaints I have about road projects out there. On Ustick Road, west of Northside, they put in a bridge over 10 Mile Creek. Half a mile away, they put a bridge over 10 Mile Creek going into a subdivision. That one took 6 weeks to put in place and be used. It took them almost 11 months to do the one on the west side of Northside Boulevard. I'm sitting there saying, it's the same bridge, same width, handling the same kind of traffic. You need your engineers to be competent, and you need them to be seeing who else has problems out there, and taking care of it before it gets to the production side.
All right, thank you. This next question is, we're going to start with you, Stuart, and this one has to do with, the rapid growth that you've already heard about, in earlier parts of the evening. Caldwell's growth is unprecedented. With the unprecedented growth rate in recent years, with projections indicating that this will only continue to be rapid growth for the next few years, how do you plan to ensure our transportation infrastructure can keep pace with the growth?
Another one of those good questions. I wrote down the numbers of the permitted lots out in Star, Middleton, and Caldwell. Star, 867 in Highway District 4. Middleton, about 500. That could be 800, it could be 400. Middleton has slowed down their planning and zoning stuff because they have infrastructure problems. Caldwell, 982. And in all of this, there is an impact fee involved with all of these. And the highway district collects an impact fee of $5,050 on each of those lots. I told somebody those numbers, and he says, well, you missed it by half. These are the public numbers I could find. There may be double that number out there. How do you pay for the infrastructure as it comes in? Parts of it are going to be paid by the people who are developing those. So inside of the subdivision, most of that is going to be paid for by the developers. Outside, expansion of the county roads, the highway district roads, and remember there's 3 or 4 different players in each of those, are also going to have to expand. And you're going to see, again, delays in traffic and the need for expanding those connections and ways to get around. 2026, which is not in the highway district, is out there. And on my road, 11th Avenue North Extension, I understand they're going to put a light at the end of the road. That was supposed to happen this year. There's no plan to put an light at the end of the road yet. But there will be one on 2026 every other mile, and that's an ITD problem. Everything on Ustick, except for half of it just east of my house, half of it is Highway District 4, and half of it is the city of Nampa, and they haven't decided they want to get along yet. Another job for the commissioners to make sure that we're working together to solve the problems.
Thank you, sir. Justin, I'll ask the question again. Caldwell has experienced an unprecedented growth rate in recent years, with projections indicating that this will continue for several years to come. How do you plan to ensure that our transportation infrastructure can keep pace with this growth?
Yeah, I guess the way to ensure that is to have an agency working behind it that understands what they're doing, and they're dotting all their I's and crossing all their T's, and following through, which brings us back to the roundabout thing, which is just mind-boggling to me. It's people are just letting stuff get slip through the cracks too frequently, it seems like. The only way to do that is to get in front of it and not allow that to be an issue. If that becomes an issue, we have to nip it in the butt right away and then put into effect different things that would ensure that that doesn't happen again. We can create new ways, we can create new rules and stuff for the highway district. You know, I know people get into places and they get comfortable in what they're doing, and there's other ways to do stuff, and if you can show somebody another way to do it that's more efficient and more productive, that's kind of my goal. So I guess the way to make sure we keep up with it is, you know, grab a hold of it and get everything in a straight line, and then when I know it's in a straight line, then I can sleep good at night. And until then, we just keep grinding until it's in a straight line and everybody is being productive in the right way. Whether it's, I know there's a lot of anti-growth, there's a lot of for-growth. Regardless, everybody wants their family to grow up in a nice, clean community. That's what I know. Growth is crazy. I've lived here my whole life. I'm probably the last one who wants to see it grow, but it's going to happen. And so we have to be efficient. We have to be productive. We have to be in a straight line. There's no other way around it. It's easy for a little job site to go and have a little hiccup, get some people behind you, turn around and do it. When you're in the highway district and you have to control and make decisions on everything that's going on around here, you have to have somebody that's a very hands-on person that's willing to stand up and say, hey, I've got this, or in the opposite, this is my fault, what can I do to do better? And so that's how I think we combat that. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to come right back at you with the next question, and this is another combo between a question from the audience and then one that we had submitted ahead of time. What will you do on day one if elected, and what does success look like at the end of your first term?
Wow, those are interesting questions. Yeah, day one, man. Nobody in this room knows me, but anybody that knows me, I'm all business all the time. I'm not the guy to go wander around. You're not going to catch me standing on the side of the job talking to guys, BS, and we're all business all the time. So I'm going to go in there with my head down. I got a goal to do. I have to get in front of all these situations that are going on, the bad permitting, the no accountability of right-of-way, which Stuart talked about. That kind of stuff needs to just be taken care of right away. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to show them what I would like to accomplish. I'm going to show them how we can accomplish it and get everybody on board to do it. And I'm going to do that by instilling confidence in those people's positions and letting them know that I'm not going to stand over them and be like, what the heck are you doing? I'm going to stand behind you and be like, this is what we did today, and we can do this tomorrow, and we're a good group of people that work together. I'll bring any resources that I have, sorry about that, I'll bring any resources that I have and contacts right into the center of what's going on, between the contacts between interagencies, ACHD, ITD, City of Nampa, City of Caldwell, you name it. I have great contacts at all those from all the years of actually building roads. You know, I know the people that are in line with what's going on there. So day one, I'm just going to get in there and we're going straight to work. I'm not there to, I'm not there to drink coffee. You know, I'm not there to do any of that stuff. I'm strictly business 24/7, and I'm not going to change from what I do in my everyday life to go over here. I'm not going to be two different people. I'm going to be the same exact person, and that's exactly what I'll do.
Stuart, I'll read the questions again. What will you do on day one if elected, and what would success look like at the end of your first term?
Day one, of course, if you're elected, you have to introduce yourself to the other commissioners and the staff and figure out who's there and who is committed to whatever the mission is. And it's going to be defined by all three commissioners of what's going forward from there. Over the last year, I've attended a lot of the Highway District 4 meetings, and in most of those meetings, I was the only one in the audience. And they're making $1 million decisions, and it may be 2 years out. Maybe they're making $5 million decisions. They're making some employment decisions and everything else. And there was nobody from the public sitting in on an organization that has a $43 million budget. Nobody was sitting in on those meetings except me, and I was trying to figure out what was going on. Success at the end of that year would be there would be more of the community sitting in those chairs out there and watching what we as commissioners are going to be doing and how we're doing it. Are we moving the direction that they want us to move? And the second thing is, all the complaints I've heard out there are about service. It says, this organization doesn't make law. It implements law and regulation and rules, and at the end, that means we're building roads, but really what it comes down to is that we need to serve the people of the district. And success would be we're serving the people of the district.
All right, thank you. I'm going to segue on that, and you mentioned success being more people showing up to meetings. So the question is, and we'll give it to you first, Stuart. How do you plan to engage the community and keep the public informed about Highway District discussions and projects?
How do you get people involved? I think you have to remind people that he says, oh, by the way, out here in your neighborhood, we're collecting $43 million. And if you're building something, we're collecting another $11 million a year in impact fees. And where is it being spent? It's your money. We talked earlier about the Valley View bonds. We talked about the ambulance district bonds, all those things, and people are going to vote on those, but they don't necessarily get to see and vote on budgets at the highway district. They don't see where all that money is going. And if you look down through their budget and you look at some of the items, he says, unlike some businesses, the smallest line, or one of the smaller lines, is actually the labor, the people that we hire out there. The rest of it is rocks and gravel and land that it buys. I want the people involved and understand, oh, by the way, they just sold off this corner over here and it's going to become a roundabout. Or we're going to widen this road. Or we're going to give these access points to this land that's going to be converted into homes. I want them showing up, and if it means going out and talking to the public and saying, hey guys, to the community groups, the Rotary Club, pick your club, I wouldn't be above showing up in those places and saying, you need to come visit us and see what we actually do out here with your money.
All right, and Justin. Do you want me to repeat the question, or you?
Yeah, would you please?
Yes. How do you plan to engage the community and keep the public informed about Highway District decisions and projects?
Yeah, so that's kind of a tough one, because right now they have like websites and stuff you can go to, check it out. It's kind of like the information is there, but it's just not put out in front of people like I think it should be. I think one thing really to do is to put yourself out there. Go to things like this. Go to the meetings like he stated, the clubs or the groups, and you talk about it. You just, if you're open and speaking about it and it's starting to get out in the air and people are hearing it, you know, then that person tells their one friend who tells their three people, and that you have to be willing to put yourself out there. If I'm going to go do this job and then go home at night and hide behind a shut door and not be accessible to anybody, that's no good. You know, you can ask my wife, I live on my cell phone. My phone rings 24/7. We're always trying to do something better, trying to build, trying to help out others that need help. So I mean, I'm willing to take phone calls. If you have a direct question, I'm not one that's scared. Any person in this room or anybody on this live feed could call me at any time and ask me the question, and I can answer to the best of my ability, or I can get you to the person that can give you the answer, or I can find out the answer for you. The way to get the community involved is to talk about it. Go in front of people, talk about it everywhere I go. You just got to eat, sleep, breathe, live this kind of a thing. And then it just kind of echoes around you. And if, like he said, if you go to groups, and I wouldn't be opposed either, just like he wouldn't, go to activities. Go there and speak. Don't be shy. Get up there and tell them, and then let the audience or let the people ask questions, and then that's how we can generate kind of what's going on and get the feedback, because everybody has their own perspective. We all think one thing. I think something, he thinks something, you think something. But to get people's feedback is a huge thing. To have them open up and tell you what they're thinking, that is a great thing. So the way to get the community involved is put yourself out there and not be scared to answer questions and take questions. That's how I feel about it.
Thank you. So in preparation for this event, I called the director of Highway District 4, and I had a good conversation with him. He was a very nice guy, very accommodating, willing to educate me because I was woefully ignorant on highway district issues. And he gave me a couple of bits of information that I thought were interesting. Before COVID, a roundabout cost was approximately $1.5 million. Today, it's closer to $4.5 million. The cost of materials for roads has increased in that same time 67%. So the question that I want to ask is, would you support seeking state or federal or other alternative funding to support major infrastructure improvements? And if so, how would you prioritize the projects that you go after? And let's see, Justin, I believe we're back to you on this one, is that correct?
Yeah, the cost of construction, holy moly, man. I started in 2021, like right when everything was still at a normal price, and overnight I watched it just double, more than double. You said 60%. And yeah, that's, man, asphalt, everything has just gone up and it's gone crazy. As far as accepting state or federal funding for infrastructure, absolutely. I mean, the more money we can bring into the organization, the faster we can move, the bigger we can go on the first time. So like he stated, we're not doing it 4 times over in the same year. And understanding the cost of building roads is just a whole different dynamic than just like going to your Home Depot and getting some goods to do anything. There's such massive quantities that are involved, and there's the trucking. Trucking is a huge number when it comes to doing any of the road building and stuff. And yeah, and I think that's where I have a really big advantage, because I see these numbers every single day. I live these numbers. I own companies that do exactly this, and so I don't know if I could necessarily get like deals, but I bet I can get better contractor pricing than what some of these people offer the highway district, just because of the contacts that I know and stuff. And I feel like on the opposing side, some of the people that work with the highway district, they kind of feel like their pockets are endless, and so they can kind of charge and take advantage of a highway district or an association in that aspect. And with me having the knowledge of doing it every day, I could call their BS right away and say, no, this doesn't seem right to me. Can you either break it down for me, tell me what I'm missing, or let's come to a better conclusion. But yeah, definitely, the more money we can raise, the better we can build roads and the faster we can build them. So absolutely, I would support getting some state and federal funding for that.
Stuart, the question again, I talked about the rapid, roundabouts going from 1.5 to 4.5 since COVID, materials costs going up 67% at the same time. The question is, would you support seeking alternatives such as state, federal funding, or other funding sources to support major infrastructure improvements? And if so, how would you prioritize the projects that the highway district pursues?
So first off, Highway District 4 is part of the Idaho Department of Transportation. You got to understand that. And in this valley, Compass is an organization out there, and also ICELS, which is an organization of engineers that basically work to get grants, federal grants, for highway construction here in the valley. That is going on even as we speak. On a regular basis. And so having a conversation with the head of the transportation department, he said, yeah, we got several $100 million of dollars, federal dollars here in the last year. And some of it didn't end up where the state thought it should go because all these competing interests who are sitting out here inside of this valley couldn't get out of each other's way to end up with $80 million to fix part of Highway 16. So it's out there. They're doing the work now, and Highway District 4 is doing the work now to try and get those federal dollars to help subsidize some of their production, some of what they're doing. I think that's something you have to do.
All right, thank you. Let's see here. There was one I was looking for. Okay. Canyon County is unique in the fact that, Stuart, we're going to go right back to you with this one. Canyon County is unique in the fact that we have 4 separate highway districts, while Ada County next door has 1. What are your views on consolidating the 4 districts in Canyon County?
And the one in Ada County is unique to the United States. It's the only one. Yeah, that should be part of the story. So in most places, doesn't just Idaho, but across the nation, counties have more than one highway district. And Canyon County does have 4. And between them, they have about an $85 million budget between all 4 of them. He says, did you see that the legislature slapped ACHD pretty hard in the last legislature? Yeah, they removed one of their commissioners. They did some other things. There's problems with being one, and quite frankly, the 4 districts in this county have a cooperative program for some of the gravel pits and everything else that are going on out there. So while they work independently of each other, they work with each other to try and get things to happen. Am I ready to collapse those? That's a political war. And I'm not sure how quickly that could happen. How much political capital can you give up to consolidate it into one highway district? I don't know if it's doable.
Thank you. I'll ask the same question again. Canyon County is somewhat unique in the fact that we have 4 separate highway districts, while Ada County next door has 1. What are your views on the idea of consolidating the 4 districts in Canyon County?
Man, that's a tough one. They all have their own individual things that are so great. I mean, I work with all of them. They all have great people, and they all have great things that go on. Would it be easier to have them all 4 together? Absolutely. There's a lot of delayed time or slack water, as you call it, when going between agencies and trying to. There's sometimes there's a certain road where you have to get 3 or 4 different agencies involved to do one thing, and that really slows everybody down. And I'm not saying it slows it down like we can hurry up and build. No, I'm saying it slows it down into the aspect where it costs people more money due to interest payments and everything on what's going on. You know, the home buyers and stuff are having to pay more interest due to the lots having to sit around and stuff. To combine the agencies would, like he says, you would be going into a political war, but it would definitely have its benefits. And if that was something that all agencies thought was a good idea, I would definitely head that up and pioneer that, because by bringing people together, I mean, if you have 4 groups that do pretty similar stuff but not exactly the same, and you get all 4 of those heads thinking together, man, I think you could really kick some tail and make some stuff happen. So I would support it, but it would take a lot of work, and you'd have to be ready to put yourself in front of the dragon there. But yeah, they all, like I say, they all have great people, great features about them. But man, if you can get the greats to work together, man, you're unstoppable. That's the all-star team at that point. So for me, I would lean towards supporting that, yeah.
All right, thank you. I think this is going to be the last question, and then you'll have one final chance to just tell us whatever else that you would each like for us to know about you before everybody goes to the ballot box. So the final question before we get to that one has to do with alternative transportation. And Justin, we'll go to you first. What role do you think the highway district should play in planning for alternative transportation options like bike paths, transit routes, and pedestrian infrastructure in high-growth areas? And what are your personal opinions about those alternative methods of transportation?
Yeah, so in building roads and doing what we do, we're seeing that more and more every day. We're starting to have, I mean, originally back in the day, Boise had the green belt. That was like the thing. That was where people would go take their bike, they'd go for a walk and do their thing and move around. Actually, you can move through town on the green belt. It's another form of transportation. They've started to do it out in these areas, and man, I think it's a great idea. It gives people more options. You know, not everybody wants to drive, or some people have more time. They like to go for a nice walk to get to where they're going, ride their bicycle, ride their rollerblades. I think it's a great thing to have different styles of transit. And yeah, the highway district, upon planning, should make sure that this is coordinated and put out there. That way, as we go through and build and all these fields start turning into something, we have other pathways to move through town. So I support it fully, and I think it's a great idea. And yeah, we should definitely have that kind of stuff. The more we have of that, the more people can get out, the more people can get to your business. They can get to check out everything. And yeah, I think it's a great idea.
And Stuart, I'll pose the question again. What role do you think the highway district should play in planning for alternative transportation options like bike paths, transit routes, and pedestrian infrastructure in high-growth areas? And what's your personal opinion about those alternative modes of transportation?
This is one of those vested interest questions, right? It says, I average about 125 miles a week on a bicycle. So I would use every one of those paths. And as the traffic has increased and everything else, the danger to the person who's out there on these roads has increased. Personally, I've only been run down twice. I mean, so I didn't break any bones. I bled a lot, right? And you go through all those things, and he says, I would like to say that those bike paths out there, he says, I also have to think about the taxpayer out there who says, well, you're riding a bike. I've heard this personally. He says, you're riding a bike and you don't pay any taxes to ride that bike. Why should I be giving you a wider lane to ride down? Well, I don't burn any fuel. And around Canyon County, if I'm averaging 20 miles an hour, I'm going as fast as traffic is. Now, not everybody can average 20 miles an hour, but I can. And I'm sitting there saying, for me, it's a pretty efficient means of getting around. So I'm in favor of that. He says, particularly if we're putting in large subdivisions and those kind of things, I know it's in the works for all those subdivisions where they have walking paths and everything else. Now, if we could just map those so that you could figure a way to not have to cross 2026 with a bicycle. My next door neighbor lost their son on 2026, run down on his bicycle. The high school principal run down on 2026. I mean, you look at those, and that was with a real wide fog lane, and he was in the fog lane when he got run down. So sometimes you can't cure inattention or stupidity, whichever way you want to put it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Stuart, we're going to leave the, you're going to start things off, and you'll have 2 minutes to basically, to tell us, as we all go to the ballot box in May, what's the final thing that you think we should know about you and why voters should vote for you?
Says, I'm probably the most experienced person in the room. That means I'm the oldest person in the room. I probably have made more mistakes than most of you. That's where you get experience, right? He says, and while, I don't know, I says, maybe. And having said that, he says, I don't have road building experience. I have business management experience. I have leadership ability across a lot of different organizations. I've never had 100 employees, but I had 85 that worked for me in a grocery store. That was an interesting experience because of the 85, 75 were women, and I learned a lot, awful lot in that period of time. So I think I am the candidate that can go out there and say, we can reach out and we can become part of the public picture that's out there, that we can make an impact on what's going on out there and make the community that's supporting these roads and bridges and bike lanes understand where their money's going to and feel like they're doing the right thing by writing that check every year. There you go.
And Justin, since you lost the initial round of rock, paper, scissors, the final word is yours tonight.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm right in the center of road building every single day. I have all the knowledge. I have live data coming through on my personal end, you know, because we're doing this every single day. I know what road budgets cost. I create them all the time for people so they can actually know what's going to happen to them. Like good budgets, not where we're just kind of guessing and we don't really know what it takes. It kind of all comes down to this, man. You know, like if you have a problem with your air conditioner, you don't call the landscaper, right? If you have a road problem, you should call the road guy in my eyes. And this is all I've known. All I've known is roads my whole life. I've done no other job. I mean, when I was younger, I did other jobs, but since the day I graduated high school, I've done nothing but build roads, whether I was on a shovel, whether I was behind the computer, whether I was writing the checks. It doesn't matter. In the equipment, it does not matter. And so I'm willing to go out there. I'll put every single effort I have out there. I won't fall short. I give you guys my word. This is what I do for a living, and I take this very seriously. And I am definitely the right candidate for this position. Thank you.
All right, let's give a round of applause to the candidates. Again, I want to sincerely thank the both of you for showing up and participating in this process and allowing the public to meet and get to know each of you. And I hope the folks in the room and at home will gain from tonight and be able to decide who you want to vote for based on what you learned. I cannot end this evening without thanking our co-conspirators for this event, which is the League of Women Voters. Thank you to Jean and your whole team from the League for helping us to put this event together. I want to thank the City of Caldwell for giving us this space and the technology. Eddie, the IT guy who's running the cameras and the microphones, thank you so much, Eddie, from the IT department, as well as the volunteers from MWEG and all the other folks from our Government Affairs Committee and our ambassadors that showed up to help tonight as well. So thank you all. We hope that you enjoy the evening, and please feel free to chat with the candidates and learn more after we're closed. Thanks very much.